Legally, we're strangers. If you want to touch my baby, that'll be $3,000 per time.
Megan said that as she held out her hand. I was stunned, and so was Shawn. Technically, Megan and I are not related by law. But to the outside world, we are still family. I needed to respond firmly as her mother. As I was gathering my thoughts, Shawn quietly muttered.
Shall we go home?
The moment I heard that, all the tension left my body. I felt embarrassed for getting so worked up over a child. After taking a deep breath, I turned to Shawn and gave a small nod. Sure, let's go home. We headed for the door together. I've always treated Megan as if she were my own daughter, but it seems she doesn't feel the same way. If that's how she wants it, I am fine. I'll treat her like a stranger too. She's a grown woman now, so it's okay to let her go, right? It'll make things easier for both of us. But as your mother, there's one last thing I need to teach you. It's regret and reflection. I'll get back at you, so you better regret it and reflect. Consider it my gift to you for becoming a mom. With that thought in mind, we left Megan's house. My name is Kate Turner. I'm 43 years old, working part-time at an insurance company. Right now, I live with my husband, Shawn, who works at a bank. Up until recently, our daughter Megan lived with us. I say recently, but it's not a sad story. Megan just got married and moved out. She got married a year ago. Honestly, I felt relieved. Sure, sometimes the house feels too quiet with just Shawn and me. But Megan and I were never very close. That's why I felt relieved when she got married. If we were truly mother and daughter, would I have felt differently? Since Megan left, I've found myself thinking that more often. The truth is, Megan isn't my biological daughter. She's Shawn's child from a previous marriage. But ever since I met her, I've raised her as my own. Shawn acknowledges that, but I have no idea how Megan feels about it. Even if Megan doesn't accept me as her mother, I will still consider myself her mom. Maybe when Megan becomes a mother herself, she'll understand how I feel. Megan is pregnant, and the baby is due soon. Perhaps our relationship will improve after that. Right now, I'm holding on to this faint hope, eagerly awaiting the birth of my first grandchild. Megan and I first met when she was in middle school. At the time, I was working at an insurance company. My department was customer service, handling phone calls. As you can imagine, phone operators are mostly women, not just in my company, but everywhere. The same was true for my workplace. Practically all women, with hardly any men around. With no prospects for a relationship, I just kept getting older. By the time I hit my 30s, I'd earned the nickname Old Guard. I wanted to quit my job. I've thought that many times. Then one day, a coworker invited me to a mixer. They probably wanted me to play the sidekick role. Still, I thought, if there's a chance to meet someone, and gladly accepted the role. That's when I met Shawn, who was also playing the sidekick. We hit it off immediately and started dating not long after. A little while later, Shawn said to me,
I'm actually divorced.
So, you've been married before. Are you still having issues with your ex-wife?
No issues, but
That's when I found out for the first time that Shawn had a daughter. and she was in middle school.
So, she might oppose us getting married.
Well, let's meet her and see. Middle schoolers are at such a sensitive age. It made sense Shawn was worried. But you never know until you meet and talk. Girls especially tend to mature faster. Maybe she'll understand. Hoping for the best, I decided to meet Shawn's daughter.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Megan.
My first impression was that she was a cheerful, energetic girl. She was straightforward and seemed quite mature. I'm Kate. I've been seeing your dad, Shawn.
Wow, you seem really calm. So, Dad, are you going to marry her?
Megan casually asked Shawn. He nodded, though he seemed a little unsure.
Well, I'd like to, but do you mind, Megan?
Why would I mind? I'm not a kid anymore. Dad, do what makes you happy.
As soon as I heard those words, I felt relieved. Shawn seemed to relax as well. Shortly after, Shawn excused himself to go to the bathroom. Megan suddenly leaned forward.
So, Kate, what do you plan to do about work?
I'll be working part-time after the wedding. Shawn's not great with housework, so I'll take care of it.
Oh, I totally get it. Dad can't do any housework.
Megan chuckled as she said that. I couldn't help but smile along with her. She's such a straightforward, sweet girl. I thought things would go smoothly. Just as I had that thought, Megan finally showed her true colors.
But Dad has terrible taste. If he's going to remarry, he should at least pick someone younger and prettier.
What? Did I hear that right? As I was still processing it, Megan continued with a grin.
You're probably just after his money, but too bad. Even though he's a banker, Dad hardly makes anything.
It's not about the money.
Then you settled, huh? You're not all that pretty, and you don't seem like you've had much luck with men, right, Kate?
Megan laughed loudly. I was speechless, unable to close my gaping mouth. So this is the real Megan. Her personality is nothing like Shawn's. I realized I would need to discipline her properly since she was going to be my stepdaughter. But I had no idea how to do it. I had no experience. Just then, Shawn came back, and our conversation ended. In the end, our first meeting wrapped up with Megan saying whatever she wanted, and I was left bewildered. Even after that, I couldn't build a proper relationship with her. Eventually, Shawn proposed to me. Of course, I was happy, and Shawn would make a great husband. But the real issue was my relationship with Megan. Well, I figured I could build that over time. As long as I stayed firm in my role as her stepmother, we'd be fine. With that in mind, I accepted Shawn's proposal. I also changed my jobs, moving from full-time work to part-time, and switched from being a phone operator to an insurance sales rep. Shawn and I got married, but it turned out to be much harder than I had imagined. Megan, now a middle schooler, was going through her rebellious phase. She didn't listen to me, or even to Shawn. On top of that, Megan's natural temperament wasn't exactly easygoing. She'd talk back 1 minute and then beg for allowance with a sweet voice the next. Don't waste money.
You live off my dad's money, so don't act all high and mighty lecturing me.
It's not a lecture.
Shut up. You're not my mom, so you have no right to tell me what to do.
Her words made me bite my tongue. Certainly, I was not her mom. But I was trying to be. I was scolding her like I would my own child. Still, Megan didn't seem to understand that. When I sighed, Megan scowled at me.
Whatever. I'll just ask Dad for it.
With that, Megan slammed the door shut behind her. Watching her go, all I could do was sigh again. Raising kids is this hard, right? I can only feel grateful to my own mom. Now, I find myself reflecting on how I acted when I was younger. But that also gives me hope. Maybe when Megan becomes a mom, she'll feel the same way. If she does, all my struggles will have been worth it. For now, I just have to be patient. Every day, I tried to encourage myself and focus on daily life. When Megan became a high schooler, her spending habits only worsened. Whenever Shawn or I tried to warn her, Megan would always say the same thing.
I have to keep up with my friends. Do you want me to be left out?
Whenever she said that, we had no comeback. After thinking it over, I suggested that Megan get a part-time job. If you want more allowance, go earn it yourself.
If I get a job, I won't have time to hang out with my friends.
Then stop wasting money. I give you a basic allowance every month. Megan scowled at my words.
Don't act all high and mighty. You're just mooching off Dad. I should have stopped him from marrying you.
Megan stomped off and slammed the door to her room. I figured I'd let her cool off for a while. At first, that seemed like a good idea, but she didn't come out. Worried, I knocked on her door a little later, but she didn't respond. From that day on, Megan stopped talking to us completely. This went on even after she graduated from high school. Shawn and I grew more and more anxious. Hey, are we just going to leave things like this?
Yeah, I think we need to do something. Ignoring this isn't helping.
Megan didn't go to college after she graduated. I was upset about that. If you're not going to college, then you need to find a job.
Don't tell me what to do with my life.
But I'm your mother, Anne. Before I could finish, Megan suddenly raised her voice.
Stop pretending to be my mother. You're just some stranger.
Her words left me speechless. She continued with a sharp glare.
I'll get a part-time jobs, okay? And I'm marrying my boyfriend soon, so whatever.
Boyfriend? Getting married?
Yeah. Unlike you, I'm cute, so I can have any guy I want.
Megan scoffed, making a dismissive sound. I was too shocked to respond. Of course, I wasn't against her dating. If she was serious, I would support her getting married too. But the guy might not be as serious. Especially at a young age, things can get complicated. He might just see Megan as someone to have fun with, not someone to marry. Considering all of that, I brought it up to Shawn. We should ask her to bring him over so we can meet him.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
We agreed on that. And then we told Megan. She looked a bit annoyed but agreed to bring him over soon. Actually, it was more like the guy insisted on coming himself rather than Megan bringing him. Either way, one Sunday, we finally met Megan's boyfriend.
Sorry for the late introduction. My name is Kevin Miller, and I'm dating Megan.
Kevin was incredibly polite and seemed like a very genuine person. He could easily find someone with a better personality. Honestly, that's what I thought. But it was clear that he really liked Megan.
I'm working full-time, so please allow me to marry Megan.
What started as just a simple introduction quickly turned into a marriage proposal. But after he said that, we couldn't exactly ignore it. Luckily, Kevin worked for a well-known local company, so I didn't think they'd have any major issues in their future.
Kate, what do you think of him?
He seems like a good, honest guy.
Yeah, I thought so too.
And just like that, we gave our blessing for their marriage. I had my concerns about Megan, but if Kevin was happy with her, there was no point in us interfering. So, Megan married Kevin and moved out of our house. That was about a year ago. Not long after, Megan called us.
I'm pregnant.
Really? Congratulations. When's the baby due?
Not for a while. Anyway, you're gonna give me a gift, right? Like $5,000. No, $10,000 would be great.
All Megan wanted to talk about was money. I couldn't help but feel exasperated. Still, I was thrilled about her baby. Don't worry, when the baby's born, I'll give you a proper gift. Just be patient.
You better. Promise me.
With Megan's insistent reminders still lingering, I somehow managed to end the call. A few months later, Megan safely gave birth to a baby boy. As promised, I went to visit Megan to bring a gift. However, since she had just given birth, she wasn't up for visitors. Instead, I handed the gift to Kevin, who was there with her, and asked him to tell Megan that I would visit another time. About 10 days later, Megan called to let us know she had been discharged from the hospital. That's when we finally went to see her. Unfortunately, Kevin wasn't there because of work, but I was still excited to meet my grandson. When we entered the living room, we saw the baby boy sleeping in a crib in the corner. Oh, he's so adorable.
Of course he is. He's my baby.
Megan said, proudly puffing out her chest. Can I hold him for a bit? As I reached out to the baby, Megan suddenly swatted my hand away.
You're legally a stranger. If you want to hold him, that'll be $3,000 per time.
Megan said with a smug look as she held out her hand. Shawn and I were left speechless. Technically, Megan was right. We weren't legally related. But to the outside world, we were still family. I thought about saying something firm, like a mother should. Just as I was gathering my thoughts, Shawn quietly muttered,
Shall we go home?
The moment I heard those words, all the tension left my body. I felt embarrassed for getting upset with my child. Taking a deep breath, I turned to Shawn and gave him a small nod. Then, let's go home. And with that, we headed for the door. I raised Megan as if she were my own daughter, but it seems she never saw it that way. If that's how she feels, I've got my own way of handling things. I'll treat her the same way as a stranger. She's a grown woman now, so it's okay to distance myself, right? That'll make life easier for both of us. But before I do, as her mother, there's one last lesson I need to teach her. It's regret and reflection. I'll make sure she regrets her actions and learns from them. That'll be my gift to her as she steps into motherhood. With that thought in mind, we left Megan's house. On the drive home, I opened up to Shawn about how I was feeling. About Megan. Up until now, I've treated her like my own daughter and spoiled her. But since she's treating me like a stranger, I'm going to be stricter from now on. I'll even start treating her like a stranger myself. I shared this with Shawn. He nodded firmly, his expression serious.
It's probably because I didn't raise her properly.
I was too lenient too. That's why, starting today, we need to be firm with her.
Yeah, with the way she's acting, being strict is the only way she'll understand.
And with that, we were on the same page. We decided to take a tougher approach with Megan. First, we cut off contact with Megan. No reaching out, and we'd ignore any messages from her. It wasn't long before an irritated Megan showed up at our house.
Hey, I know you're in there. Open up.
She shouted from the doorstep. Thankfully, she didn't bring the baby with her. Shawn and I both decided to ignore her. If it's just Megan, we don't need to worry about anything. Then she started yelling through the intercom.
Just open the door and give me money. I'm broke over here.
That startled me. If something had happened to the baby, we couldn't just ignore it. I stood up, ready to go to the door. But Shawn stopped me.
That's a lie. She just ran out of her own spending money.
How do you know that? When I asked him back, Shawn then explained the situation to me. This happened just a few days ago. Shawn apparently ran into Kevin at his workplace, the bank. Kevin had come in for work-related business. And that's when he shared some troubling news. Kevin mentioned that Megan's spending habits were getting out of control. She wanted to buy new clothes for an upcoming reunion. But with a newborn, they were struggling financially. Kevin asked her to hold off this time. Megan, upset by this, stormed out of the house. Kevin thought she'd given up, but in reality, she had gone to his parents' house. So she asked her in-laws for pocket money. She really did that?
Yeah, apparently they refused, so she came here.
Shawn replied, shaking his head. I started to think it over. Was that story really true? Just as I was considering it, I heard Megan's voice from outside.
I need money to buy new clothes. I'll let you hold my baby for $2,000 per time.
At that moment, I felt ashamed of myself for even considering that she might have had a legitimate reason. That's it. We need to get tough on her. I quickly grabbed the intercom. Enough. You're disturbing the neighbors.
Fine, I'll drop it to $1,000. No, $500.
It's not about the money. Go home. As I cut off the intercom, I could still hear Megan's voice from outside.
Fine, you'll regret this.
Then there was silence. Finally, it seemed like she had given up, and I breathed a sigh of relief. Since that day, we haven't heard from Megan. She had probably learned her lesson, at least a little, I thought. Then one day, while I was visiting a company as part of my insurance sales jobs, something unexpected happened. After finishing a smooth meeting, I exchanged pleasantries with the representative. That's when I heard a voice from behind me. I turned around, and there stood Kevin. Oh, Kevin, are you here for work?
Kate, are you okay? Are you already back to work?
What do you mean?
I heard you were in the hospital.
I couldn't make sense of the story. I decided to find a quieter spot to hear Kevin out. Here's what he told me. A few days ago, when Kevin came home, Megan told him her mother was in the hospital and that she needed to stay there to take care of her. She wouldn't be able to come home for a while, so she asked Kevin to arrange for their baby to stay with his parents. Hearing that, Kevin panicked. He asked his parents to take care of the baby and even gave Megan some money, urging her to head home immediately. Do you think that was a lie from Megan?
Yeah, seems like it.
In that case, where is Megan now, and what is she doing after leaving the baby with her in-laws? I had a suspicion, but I didn't say it out loud. I gave Kevin some advice. You might want to investigate Megan's behavior.
Yeah, but I want to ask her about it first.
Kevin was being too soft. But then again, that's how Shawn and I had been not too long ago. Still, I felt like I needed to push Kevin in the right direction. If she lied, your marriage is already falling apart. For your own sake, you should start considering a divorce.
Yeah, you're right.
Kevin reluctantly agreed. I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Megan had dug her own grave without me having to do a thing. In fact, I was not upset about this. I decided this would be the perfect opportunity to make things right. After parting ways with Kevin, I returned to work, eager to finish my tasks and head home. Not long after I got home, Shawn arrived too. I immediately told him about what had happened with Megan. So that's what happened.
Wait, so Megan lied and went out somewhere?
That's what it seems like.
Why would she do that? Do you think she's cheating?
Shawn hesitantly asked me. I gave him a small nod. Probably. I think she is.
What is she thinking?
Shawn sighed. I understood how he felt. It's not uncommon for people to lie and cheat. But Megan had only been married for a year. They had just had a baby, which should have been the happiest time in their marriage. If she's cheating now, it must have started before they even got married. I can have any man I want. Megan's words echoed in my mind. If she wasn't just bluffing, it wouldn't be surprising if she was dating multiple guys at the same time. As we were thinking about all of this, the doorbell suddenly rang. When I opened the door, there was Megan standing on the doorstep.
You really messed things up for me.
She shouted the moment she walked in. With a sigh, I shot back. I didn't do anything. You're the one who caused all this.
Shut up. It's because you said something unnecessary to Kevin.
Megan started making a scene at the front door. If she makes any more noise, it causes trouble to our neighbors. So I let her in. I guided her to the living room. As soon as she stepped in, Megan pointed her finger at me and raised her voice again.
This is your fault. If this keeps up, I'll have to get a divorce.
Calm down. What happened?
Shut up. I am calm.
Despite her raised voice, Megan began explaining what had happened. It had all started a few hours earlier. When Megan got home, Kevin had asked her, I met with your mom earlier. Was it a lie about her being in the hospital? Naturally, Megan had been completely caught off guard by the question. She tried to make excuses, but nothing she said made sense. In the end, she admitted she had gone on a trip, but the trip itself wasn't the real issue. The problem was who she had gone with. When Kevin pressed her on this, Megan tried to dodge the question. However, he checked the photos on her phone, and it was game over. There, smiling alongside Megan, was one of Kevin's male coworkers. Megan had no choice but to admit she had lied and gone on a trip with another man. As a result, Kevin told her he wanted a divorce, which was why she was now here, complaining to me. "You brought this on yourself."
Shut up. This is your fault. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been caught.
There's a limit to how much someone can blame others. I looked away and sighed.
I'll sue you for this.
That's not going to work. I didn't do anything.
Just wait and see. I'm taking you to court.
With that, Megan stormed out of the house. All Shawn and I could do was sigh.
I'm really sorry.
It's fine. Once she realizes she can't win, Megan will give up. No one would take this seriously. But Megan wasn't the type to give up easily, especially when it came to money. As proof of that, she became even more fixated on me in the days that followed. My phone was flooded with countless emails, and she called repeatedly. When I blocked her number and ignored everything, Megan started showing up at my workplace.
Bring that woman out here.
She would make a scene at the reception desk day after day. It was becoming a huge problem for both my company and me. I couldn't let her continue disrupting my workplace. And since Shawn's income was enough for us to live on, I decided to quit my job. Even then, Megan didn't stop harassing me. Finally, I had no choice but to call the law office I had hired and have Megan come in. With the lawyer present, I told her calmly, "Megan, I'm going to sue you for damages."
What are you talking about? I haven't done anything.
"You've sent me endless harassing emails and caused such a scene at my company that I had no choice but to resign." Megan pursed her lips, trying to argue back.
So what? I didn't do anything wrong.
"Say whatever you want. It won't change the fact that I'm suing you."
You're suing your own child? What kind of parent does that?
Megan stood up, clearly agitated. But I remained calm and replied, "You once told me something, remember? You said, 'We're legally strangers.'"
So that's what this is about. Fine. Do whatever you want.
"I will."
Good luck living alone at your age. I'll make sure you get divorced too.
Laughing loudly, Megan stormed out of the lawyer's office. She still didn't understand what was happening. "Megan, you don't have anyone on your side anymore." I watched her walk away, thinking that to myself. A few days later, Kevin called. He wanted to talk and asked if he could meet with Shawn and me. Given everything that had happened with Megan, it made sense to have a conversation. So I agreed to meet him at our house. But when he arrived, he wasn't alone. "Why is Megan here?"
I'm sorry. I brought her with me.
For a moment, I thought perhaps the divorce had been finalized. With that in mind, I let them both inside. In the heavy atmosphere, Kevin was the first to speak. Naturally, the topic was the divorce. After the affair was exposed, Kevin and Megan had been discussing their separation. It seemed they had finally reached a resolution. Megan had admitted to her affair and agreed to the divorce. Kevin also planned to demand alimony from Megan. She had agreed to pay. And what about the guy she was with? Has he said anything?
Yeah, he's a coworker of mine.
Megan's affair partner was one of Kevin's colleagues. And, as if things couldn't get worse, they had met at the wedding. Kevin had even involved their boss and demanded compensation from his coworker. He agreed to pay and resigned from the company. I was honestly at a loss for words. When I glanced at Megan, she quickly looked away. Well, I guess the divorce was inevitable.
The divorce is one thing, but I also heard you were planning to sue Megan?
Oh, that? Don't worry about it, Kevin. It doesn't concern you. I smiled, and Kevin looked confused. He glanced over at Megan.
Is something off here?
What? No, nothing's off.
But didn't you say it was partly my fault? I remember you mentioning something like that.
Something wasn't adding up. I decided to ask Kevin for more details. And what he revealed was something I hadn't expected. This was Kevin's side of the story. Megan and Kevin had been living apart since the affair was exposed. Then, one day, Kevin received a call from Megan. Through tears, Megan said,
Mom and her company are suing me. Since we're still married, you need to take responsibility too.
Kevin was shocked. When he asked for more details, Megan explained.
Mom got fired, so she's asking for money, and her company is demanding compensation for her mistake.
What kind of cheap lie was that? I listened, barely able to hide my disbelief as Kevin continued his story.
So, I came here to get the real story. Is what Megan told me true?
I shook my head. Not even close. The truth is. The entire mess started when Megan caused a scene at my workplace. The company sued Megan for disrupting business. And I had to resign. I'm only asking for compensation because of that. When I explained this to Kevin, his expression changed quickly. For once, the normally mild-mannered Kevin raised his voice at Megan.
How could you? This is all because of your selfish actions.
No, that's not true. I didn't do.
Megan launched into one of her usual excuses, painting herself as the victim. She hadn't done anything to cause me trouble, even though I had indeed been forced to quit my jobs, she claimed. Then she turned to Shawn for help.
Dad, you believe me, right? You're on my side, aren't you?
No, Megan, I can't be on your side this time.
Unlike her, you and I are a real family.
Megan leaned forward desperately, but Shawn looked away as he responded.
About that, I've been thinking of ending our parent-child relationship.
What are you saying? We'll always be family.
That's true for biological families, but you're my adopted daughter, and if I annul the adoption, that's it.
Megan was speechless. The truth was, Megan wasn't Shawn's biological child. When Shawn married his first wife, she already had a baby girl. It's Megan. Of course, Shawn wasn't Megan's father. Her biological father was another man. But Shawn had wanted to be a father to little Megan, so he married his ex-wife to raise her. Unfortunately, that marriage didn't last long. As a result, when Shawn's ex-wife struggled to raise Megan alone, he took Megan in.
Megan's an adult now, so it's time to end this adoption arrangement, don't you think?
Wait a minute. What about the lawsuit? Am I supposed to go to court by myself?
It's all your fault that Kate's company interfered with their business and that she quit her jobs. You're an adult and you need to take responsibility.
Shawn replied firmly. Hearing that, Megan burst into tears on the spot. She cried like a child.
I can't. I have a kid. I can't pay this kind of money. I can't handle a lawsuit.
No one here is going to help you. After all, to everyone in this room, you're legally a stranger. Megan continued to cry. Even my words did not seem to reach her ears. Eventually, Kevin and Megan finalized their divorce. At the same time, Shawn moved forward with dissolving the adoption. Naturally, Megan resisted this as her last form of defiance, refusing to be cut off. As a result, Shawn filed for legal separation from her. If she continued to refuse, it would turn into a full-blown court case. No matter which way things went, Megan wouldn't come out ahead. On top of that, Megan was also being sued by both the company and me. She had nowhere to run. In the end, Megan lost all the lawsuits and was left with a pile of debt. She had to pay damages to the company and compensation to me. The amount was so high that it gave me a headache just thinking about it. And of course, she also had to pay Kevin alimony for the divorce. With no other options, Megan decided to work at a high-paying night jobs to make ends meet. Kevin gained full custody of their child. Megan wasn't allowed to see the baby and was left to work hard without reprieve. Meanwhile, once everything was settled, I was finally able to hold my first grandchild in my arms. It was all thanks to Kevin's thoughtful consideration. Both Shawn and I were incredibly grateful to him. By the way, after the divorce, Kevin decided to get a DNA test for the child. The result, as expected, confirmed that the child was indeed his. Hearing that was a huge relief. Given Megan's behavior, there was a chance the child could have belonged to someone else. That was the scariest possibility. I hope you grow up well. I spoke softly to the baby. How a child turns out depends heavily on how they are raised. In that sense, there's a lot I need to reflect on too. So, if Megan ever apologizes, I'll be ready to forgive her. And I want to apologize to Megan when the time comes. I'm sorry for being such an inadequate mother. I thought about all this as I gently held Megan and Kevin's child close.